No matter when, where, or how you served, or what you've experienced in the military or civilian life, you may be facing mental health challenges that affect your health and relationships. Maybe you're having trouble getting a good night's sleep, experiencing feelings of depression that you just can't kick, or wondering where to find help. Whatever it may be, you are not alone. Every day, veterans find support for overcoming mental health challenges. And even though the support they find may be different, each of them had to take a first step. Whether it was acknowledging that something was wrong, starting a conversation with a loved one, or picking up the phone to reach out for support, that first step is critical. This is the first episode of Make the Connection: Real Veterans, Real Stories. In each episode, we'll explore different topics related to veterans' personal experiences with mental health challenges and how they found support. Since its launch in 2011, Make the Connection has interviewed over 600 veterans from all service eras and military branches. They got help, and their lives got better. So can yours. Today, we will hear from 4 veterans.
My name is April, Army.
My name is Cliff. I'm in the U.S. Army. Served 25 years.
My name is Reagan. I served in the Marine Corps.
My name's Tristan. I was in the United States Navy from 2004 to 2008.
For these veterans, the path to recovery began by being open, honest, self-aware, or by reaching out for support. Let's dive in. For some veterans, sharing their feelings and experiences is essential. Just knowing that they can always talk to someone who understands can make all the difference. April, a U.S. Army veteran who deployed to Iraq in 2002, found herself feeling angry and afraid when she returned home. It wasn't until she found a way to be open about how she was feeling that she could recognize that she was experiencing PTSD.
Basically, when I deployed, it was a little bit surreal for me. I thought, okay, maybe I'll be going to Kuwait, where it's not really hostile. That's exactly where we went. We went there for about maybe 2 weeks, and then we got the call that the war had started and we will be pushing up to Baghdad, Iraq. That's when it got real. Just the smell of death, just the sight of death played a toll on not only me, but my entire unit. Coming back from Iraq, I felt extremely proud. I felt wonderful about what I did, where I just came from. I felt like I can conquer the world. But I started noticing that my happiness almost turned into a little bit of anger. My happiness turned into a little bit of fear, wondering if I hit the curb, something might blow up. Anything in the street, I would be afraid to run over it. I was constantly watching my back, did not like crowds, didn't want to sit with my back towards the exit. I really didn't pay too much attention to it, only because I felt like I'm a combat veteran. I can face the world. I'm strong. But in reality, I wasn't strong. I was pretending to be strong because that's how the military built us. We were built to go, 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 go. We were built to have this tough outer shell, but inside there were a lot of things that were going on that I had no clue was affecting me. I sat and I let it fester for a long time until someone told me, April, you need to get help.
By being open about how she was feeling, April was able to find support that completely changed her life.
In the beginning, I started going to the VA every week. I was under a special program specifically for combat veterans, specifically for female combat veterans. I went every week and it was an outlet for me. It felt good talking about my experience in Iraq. It felt good talking about my fears and my concerns and my worries. It felt good having someone to listen to me and not judge me, but just to get all of that emotion and anger that I had built up out. It really worked for me. It really felt good. Life is so much better now because I know that I have someone that I can call. I know that I have someone that I can speak to.
Cliff, a veteran of the Army Reserve and National Guard, learned the same lesson. He was inside the Pentagon when it was struck on 9/11.
What I saw there and what I crawled over, I just didn't want to talk to anybody about it. It was hard for me to cope with, and I didn't want to gross people out or be disrespectful to the people that died by describing certain things or that I saw and did when I was there. So I just kept it to myself. And for me, growing up, men never talked about their problems. You never showed emotion. You just did it because you were a man. And that made it even harder for me when I started to have problems and going to counseling. And counseling's only as good as you want it to make it be. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself and with the person you're going counseling with to get the most benefit out of that. I think when I first started to go to counseling, I wasn't to that point. So then about 3 months later, December, I was home on leave for Christmas and didn't want to live with the guilt of not finding anybody alive, and wrote a note and took 20 sleeping pills. My brother, who's a nurse, just got how I'd feeling at work, came home and found me unconscious on the couch. He rushed me to the hospital. After my attempt, I was in the hospital, and then they moved me to a mental ward. Then you realize I need to change what I'm doing. And I went back into counseling and talked truthfully about what I did and how I felt and why I felt certain ways about things. And really began, the process of, I don't know if you call it mourning, but grieving a little bit of what went on that day. And even though it was hard to relive, it felt like a big weight being taken off my chest to sit and finally tell the whole story, which in turn I think enabled the psychologist now to better treat me. And I was diagnosed with PTSD.
Thanks to treatment, Cliff was able to recognize the stressors in his life and find the right tools to help cope with them. Being honest with himself about what he was feeling and experiencing made all the difference.
People go through dark places at any time in their life, and that's okay. It's okay, that's part of life. If something traumatic happens to you, whether you're on the battlefield or you're driving to work or something, that's part of life. But you need to realize that some things you can't handle by yourself. You can't. And you need to go to a trained professional to help you through those things and give you steps so you can deal with those issues and problems when they come up.
Reagan, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, learned the hard way about the perils of trying to ignore his issues. 3 days after returning home from Iraq, he started working a job that was more than full-time, which he continued 7 days a week for the next 3 months straight. Reagan thought that everything seemed fine until he wasn't so busy. After earning a promotion, he didn't have to work quite so much. As his free time increased, so did his irritability and fatigue. He didn't want to talk to anybody, and his relationships deteriorated. Then he started becoming violent at work. Reagan lost his job and was about to lose another one when a friend's father, a former Navy man, came to town. The two veterans hit it off, sharing stories and comparing experiences across generations. After learning about Reagan's post-deployment troubles, the Navy veteran suggested that Reagan get help through VA.
I started noticing a little difference in basically who I was. I was a lot more irritable. I was always tired. I never slept. And then I just noticed that my relationship with everybody, as time went on, it got worse. I was harder to deal with. And I just got to the point where I was almost impossible to deal with. And then what was kind of like come to Jesus meeting with me is when a friend of mine that I worked with, his dad came into town, and we were in Beaumont, Texas at the time, and we were talking about the military, my service, and he was in the Navy back in the day, and we were talking about that, and he was telling me, do you have any problems? And I said, it's funny, I kind of do. And he was the one that told me, you need to get with the VA. You need to go see somebody, you need to get help. And I was like, nah, I don't need that. And he's like, you do. You really do. I'm telling you now, you do. It's like he knew something that I didn't because he had already been there.
Reagan resisted the idea at first, but eventually he went to VA, where he was diagnosed with PTSD. Since then, he has realized that although he may not be the same person he was before his service, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And he's found that trying to quash your troubles by ignoring them or staying overly busy doesn't solve anything.
You're gonna run, but you're gonna get tired sooner or later, and that problem is gonna be there. If you got an opportunity to go talk to somebody, you need to go do it. Anytime you want, you pick up a phone, go to a center, anything, go talk to somebody. Because whatever you're dealing with, you think you're the only one, you think I'm on this island all alone, there's 1,000 more people going through the same thing, and it will benefit you.
For some veterans, the idea of reaching out for support can feel daunting. As we've heard from Reagan, Cliff, and April, it isn't easy to be open, to be honest, or to be self-aware. The first step is often seeking and accepting help. Tristan, a Navy veteran who received treatment at VA for anxiety and problems with alcohol, was initially hesitant to reach out. He found himself constantly comparing and diminishing his experiences to what others were going through. Recognizing that he was placing those obstacles on himself helped him to finally address what was holding him back.
It's hard to walk in and seek treatment for whatever you have going on when you're sitting next to a double amputee or a guy with a traumatic brain injury or whatever. It's multifaceted. There are plenty of reasons not to walk in and take the first step, but there are more reasons to step in and just start it. And it's always hard to start something new. But once you do, once you take that first step and all the odd parts that you can't visualize and all the parts of it that were scary because you weren't sure what it would be like set into place around you, and you say, okay, this isn't abnormal, this isn't weird, this is okay. Anytime you start something new, it's really hard. You can't imagine doing it until you do it, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you find yourself better for it.
When we think about what we heard from Tristan, Reagan, Cliff, and April, one thing that stands out is that there's no one way to process the unique and challenging experiences of veterans. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, and there are so many resources available through VA. The key thing to remember is that you do not need to go at this alone. Whatever you're going through, there is help, and reaching out is the first step. For those veterans, taking that first step meant being open, being honest, and becoming self-aware. It might look different for you. What's important is that you start down that path. Make the connection. It can make all the difference. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Make the Connection, Real Veterans, Real Stories, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. In our next episode, we'll feature stories of veterans who experienced flashbacks, anxiety, depression, and PTSD while transitioning out of the military, and hear about the steps they took to find help. Visit MakeTheConnection.net, an online resource designed to connect veterans, their family members and friends, and other supporters with information, resources, and solutions to issues affecting their lives.